Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Josie's Point of View, where we focus on human interest stories from the Carolinas and beyond. Today it's Wednesday and it's March the 18th, 2026. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new to my channel, I want to thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you find the information here to be informative. And if you're a returning viewer, by all means, thank you for coming back. You know, I always say the tide changes so frequently here on these YouTube streets that you always have to acknowledge where your support comes from. And I want you to know I sincerely thank you for your support. So feel free to like and to share this video. And don't forget to subscribe. In today's video, we're going to discuss three North Carolina service members who were recently arrested for child sex crimes. There's nothing pleasant about this video, so let's go ahead and let's get started. I'll provide you with a summary here, and I'll identify some of my sources for you in the description box. Now, this first case has to do with a paratrooper assigned here to Fort Bragg. But the crimes he's accused of took place in the city of Tucson, Arizona, and that's where this paratrooper has been charged with sex trafficking an 11-year-old girl to multiple men in the city of Tucson. So I'm going to share this story with you without being too graphic because it makes me so very angry. It started back in August of 2025. A father woke up in the middle of the night and found that his 11-year-old daughter was missing. So he called police. She comes home the next morning. So the police are interviewed. Oh, and by the way, when she was gone, she had left her phone. So they looked at the phone and they saw that she was communicating with a specific person. And then she shows up the next morning. The police is there. The police is involved. The police are interviewing her. And maybe some of the things that she said, they decided that they were going to go through her phone and they looked and see who she was communicating with. And guess what? She was communicating with one particular man. And as they pushed and pushed and they probed, they found out that that particular man had been sex trafficking this 11-year-old girl. They identified four men that she was forced to have personal relations with. Not only did she have to have sex with them, but the encounter was videotaped. It was videotaped and then returned back to this man. Maybe this was a means to verify that the incident took place or whatever, or maybe he was just creating child porn. We don't know. So you had four grown men who were sex trafficked, who were sexually abusing this child, all at the direction of this particular individual. And that man who was directing the sexual activities with those other four men were identified as 22-year-old Army Specialist Samuel Noel Talavera, a paratrooper assigned to Fort Bragg. And Tucson, Arizona police, in conjunction with their special victims unit, the child sexual assault unit, they worked together on this case and they worked on it for 5 months. And here's their conclusion that Talavera forced the girl to have sex with at least four Tucson men. And they identified the men by name, and all four of the men were arrested. And here are the four men. I wanted you to see how old they were, the charges they faced, and the bond. As you can see, two of them were 20 years old, and two of them were 24, and they had multiple counts of sexual encounter with this 11-year-old. And here's the bond that they faced, between $25,000 and $400,000. And after those arrests in Tucson, Arizona, investigators now had their focus on this paratrooper who was assigned to Fort Bragg. And here was the criminal complaint. I was surprised at how graphic this was. And I understand they needed to be specific, but I didn't think all of the specificity was needed in the newspaper for everyone to see. It was graphic. It was graphic. It talked about body parts. It talks about, what went where. It's just sad. And they identify each of those culprits by name and what they did to this 11-year-old girl. But the fact is, after they got those, here was the criminal complaint. They were coming after Talavera here at Fort Bragg. And so, with warrant in hand, investigators from Tucson, Arizona Police Department traveled to Fort Bragg, and with the help of Army CID, Talavera was taken into custody on November 12, 2025, charged, and then transported back to Tucson, Arizona. So on December the 16th, he appeared before a judge in Arizona to face the following charges: 15 counts of accomplice to sexual conduct with a minor under 15, 6 counts of sexual exploitation of a minor under 15, 5 counts of fraud, 4 counts of child sex trafficking under age 15. Now, his attorney requested a low bond, stating that Talavera was in the military and he did not have a criminal record. Leave the military out of this. But the district attorney asked the bond be denied. He argued that Talavera was a flight risk in view of the lengthy prison sentence he was facing. He also cited the extent of the activity, the number of the people involved, and the age of the victim. And the judge did seem to meet them halfway because she assigned Talavera a bond of $1 million. And Fort Bragg did issue a statement saying that we are aware of the arrest and extradition of Specialist Samuel Talavera and understand he is in custody in Pima County, Arizona. We will continue to provide our full support to the Department of the Army Criminal Investigation Division and other law enforcement partners. That is all. And here's the most recent update on this case. One of the 4 men went ahead and pled guilty to, of course, a lesser charge in January, but he's still facing up to 15 years in jail and up to a maximum $150,000 in fines and restitution. But he has not been sentenced. The next court date is May the 4th. And the other 3, what the prosecutor did, they dropped the charges against them, individual charges, and now all of them, the 3 plus Talavera, all going to be tried together, and their next court appearance is on May the 4th. But I'm just wondering if there are additional charges pending for Talavera, because if he's been getting this child sex materials in the mail and he's been getting them on Fort Bragg, what's been going on at Fort Bragg, what they found over there, we just don't know. So I won't be surprised if additional charges is forthcoming for him. But let me just make one observation and a correction. I saw this headline and other news stations picked it up. It says military officer stationed in North Carolina faces sex crime charges in Pima County. Now, let's make this clear. Talavera is not an officer. Talavera is an enlisted soldier. He's a specialist. Let's get it right. We got enough problems. We don't want any more, and we definitely don't plan on claiming him. And moving on to the next story, also coming out of Fort Bragg, I saw this news headline. It read Fort Bragg soldier arrested on charges of child exploitation in Manteo, and the date of this reporting was February the 6th, 2026. And the first question I had is, where in the world is Manteo? So I had to go look it up, and I realized it's on the coast. It's in Outer Banks. So first you have Fort Bragg, which is up here, and then you have Manteo, which again is at the coastline at the very, very end. Is Manteo. I said, okay, so let me go ahead and see what he did that got him into a whole lot of trouble. Now, reports say it started back in November in an online chat room when a male subject began communicating with someone he thought was a 14-year-old female. He did not know at the time he was actually communicating with an undercover agent from the Manteo Police Department. And this suspect had no idea he would soon become part of an online sting investigation targeting child predators. So, as the communication progressed, the suspect made arrangement to meet up with the alleged 14-year-old female, and they were going to meet up back in January, and they were going to meet up at a nearby hotel in Mateo for the purpose of having a sexual encounter. And I'm sure undercover agents were able to trace the IP address to find out that he was from Fayetteville, and which is 3 hours away from Mateo. I'm sure they communicated clearly the age of the child, the alleged child, 14 years old. But they also found out that he was a soldier assigned to Fort Bragg. And that soldier was identified as 22-year-old Aiden Borkowitz. And now that all the plans were in place for this anticipated hookup of this 14-year-old, the Manteo Police Department coordinated with Army CID at Fort Bragg, and they came to the area, went on Fort Bragg, and they picked him up and arrested him for solicitation of a child by computer or electronic device in order to commit an unlawful sex act. And once he was arrested, there was a search warrant issued by the Fayetteville Police Department so they could examine his residence as well as his electronic devices. And would you know, as investigators were going through his cell phone, they found a photo gallery of approximately 10 pictures of very young girls involved in various sex acts or simply without clothes. The young girls in the photos were between the ages of 5 and 11 years old, and according to investigators, those photos were downloaded just a few days before he was actually arrested. So they seized additional devices for further investigation, and he incurred additional charges of having child sex abuse materials. So let's travel from Fort Bragg all the way to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where I saw this news headline. It said Marine charged with human trafficking of a child, and the date of this reporting was February the 26th, 2026. Now, 20-year-old Private First Class Caleb Mashke is a Marine assigned to the 6th Marine Regiment of the 2nd Marine Division at Camp Lejeune. Now, he's still fairly new to the military. Reports say he enlisted in the Marines last year, so Camp Lejeune is definitely his first military assignment. And based upon reports, the FBI, working in conjunction with Navy CIS, have charged him with sex trafficking of a child and felony promoting prostitution of a minor for profit. Now, there are many aspects of this case that are not being made public, of course, because the victim here is 16 years old. But it was reported that Mesky was prostituting the 16-year-old and held her against her will, and that's being described as sexual servitude. And whatever was done took place on February the 1st. So he was arrested and charged with these very serious crimes and is currently being held in the Onslow Correctional Facility without bond. No follow-up court date is currently available. Now, I took a few minutes to review North Carolina's law as it pertains to sexual servitude, and this is what I want to make sure people understand. When it has to do with minors, it said if the victim is a minor under 18, it's considered a Class C felony. Pay attention. Consent of a minor is not a defense. You cannot say the minor said it's okay. Absolutely unacceptable. Second, it says mistake of age is not a defense. You can't assume that just because somebody looked big that they're of a certain age. You better make sure you clarify. They said it's a crime regardless of whether the victim allegedly consented. Okay? And thirdly, it says the law covers for the person forcing the servitude and those who benefit from it. So if you're the one who making the person do it, or you are the one who benefited from it, both of you guys are going to be held accountable. Now let's look and see what the North Carolina law says about sentencing. It says it's a Class C felony which carries a prison sentence of 44 to 182 months if the victim of the offense is an adult. Now, if the victim is a minor, it's a Class B2 felony and it carries a sentence of 94 to 393 months, and that comes out to 7.8 to 32.1 years in prison. And keep in mind that in the state of North Carolina, there's no statute of limitation for felony crimes of this nature. So this young man is facing some very serious jail time. Let me tell you, this is definitely the worst cases of child sexual abuse that I have had to discuss. Imagine trafficking an 11-year-old child to multiple men. Imagine trafficking a 16-year-old. It's horrible. It's just horrible. And let me tell you, I don't have any sympathy for any of them. Those victims deserve justice, and I hope they get exactly what's coming to them. And that's all I have for you right now, but feel free to leave me a comment below and let me know what you think about this video, and by all means, feel free to like it and to share it. And if you haven't done so already, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel by clicking on that red subscribe button. It's on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And if you click on the bell that looks like just like this one, that's the notification bell. If you click on that notification bell, you'll be the first to know whenever a new video is uploaded. I thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.